We're now joined by Good Morning Britain security expert Mikey Kay. So when you hear President of the United States, leader of the free world, say, I would bring back waterboarding, and in fact I'd bring back far worse, and then seeming to be delivering it now he's in power, what do you make of that?
Well, I think policy-wise there are a number of issues with that. One, it's against the US Convention Against Torture, and two, it clearly states in the US Field Army Manual that waterboarding, along with walling, which is when you put a collar around someone and you throw them into a wall, along with confinement, along with the use of implements, the use of electricity, stringing people up, that is all against the rules. So I feel like if he's going to go down this route, then he's going to be resisted and contested by a lot of conventions and a lot of policy that's been out there for many decades.
Rules don't seem to be something that he's worried about, particularly now he's taken power, and it feels though, like, if you say, Mike, it's against the rules, he's just going to change the rules. Yeah,
I mean, that's absolutely correct, but I think really you've got to look at this pragmatically and say, you know, to what end would you want to waterboard someone? I've got lots of sources, primarily that were involved with targeting the IRA back in the 90s, and I've been speaking to them, you know, quite significantly about this. And their view very much is that the use of torture and abuse is very counterproductive. Interrogation is all about psychology. And one of the big problems at the moment we have with that is that there is a language barrier. When you go from people like who are in the IRA, we speak the same language, and interrogation is understanding the intuition and the way that people answer questions. And that's hard with a language barrier when we're looking at people from the Arabic world who are targets. But his big thing, or my source's big thing, was it's the first 8 hours that are that prime moment where you can extract that information that you're after. After the 8 hours, it's a depreciating cycle up to 48, and then after that, it becomes incredibly difficult. And the important thing to take away here is that after 48 hours, if you've lifted someone from a certain cell, from a certain group, the group will know that that person has disappeared, and therefore whatever information you're looking to extract from that person after 48 hours, the MO, the modus operandi of the group will change. It's redundant. And so that's a big component.
There are going to be people that are just viscerally horrified by this on a kind of moral level, under any circumstances. And there are going to be people that say, actually, do you know what? We're fighting an unfair war, you know, in a world that's felt very uncivilised for a long time now. And actually, yeah, and Donald Trump himself has said, fight fire with fire, and do whatever it takes. So in that first 8 hours, if you need to get the information out of them, go in hard, go in fast, and go in cruelly if necessary.
It's a great point, but I think what you've got to look at is the broader consequences. Does going in hard actually work? Let's take Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib was the prison. The photographs that came out in 2004, there were photographs of Iraqi prisoners with collars on boxes with dogs. What that actually did was, we all know the rift between Sunni and Shia. We know that Sunni and Shia have been fighting each other for centuries. But what those pictures did was they cemented a fusion between two arch rivals against coalition forces inside Iraq. That was the consequences of those pictures of that, exactly what you're talking about, going in hard and fast. If you look at some of the images that are coming out of Syria at the moment, the way that Assad, for example, has treated various people in his prisons, you look at the rebels, globalization it's taking on, you know, a different course now. And terrorism's been around for a while, interrogation's been around for a while, but when you underpin it by globalization, we have to think differently.
There's a big impact for us as well, because as a country, we've always said, and our Prime Minister will say, we can't use any information that's extracted from prisoners through any sort of torture techniques as well, right? And we share information with the Americans, so all of a sudden, none of that information, if it's extracted in these ways, is viable in our courts.
Right, and again, another great point. You've got to ask yourself, to what end are we conducting these types of so-called enhanced interrogation techniques? If that's the case judicially, then why are we doing it? If we can't use the information, why are we doing it? And there are two main reasons why interrogation occurs. The first one is to gather information to prevent maybe loss of life, but the second one is to try and turn someone. And so it all depends really on the detainee, and it depends on who the detainee is, whether they're cooperative, whether they're argumentative, whether they're avoidant, and that's where you make your approach. So interrogation is all about intellectual savvy. It's not about going in there with a hammer and beating it at someone.
Mike, if you're honest and having the sources that you do, does this happen anyway? In certain circumstances, imagine, I don't know, I'm making this up, but, you know, someone has got information, they suspect a bomb has been planted somewhere, they don't care, they want to get the information they need. The problem here is that the president has kind of made it official.
Well, there's interrogation at a number of different levels. There's a tactical questioning, which is interrogation on the battlefield. So if you find someone on the battlefield and you want immediate information from them, there is a form of interrogation there. And then if the asset is high value enough, then that person will be transferred immediately to a black site where, you know, CIA operatives or whatever will then start their interrogation. So, you know, it all depends on who the person is, the type of information that's trying to be garnered. But it's certainly something that, you know, when you speak to a lot of sources who have been very prevalent in this area, going down the physical abuse route is counterproductive, and that is a very clear message, having spoken to a lot of these people.
Okay,
Right.
Mikey, good to see you this morning. Thanks for coming in. Mikey Kane, security expert.